Good evening and welcome to your Wednesday night podcast here on For All That's Had a Dream. My name's Andrew and I'm doing the post-match reaction tonight with one of my very favourite podders, someone I've not been on with for a while, and that's Mark. How you doing, man?
Doing fine, mate. Good to be back. It has been quite a long time, hasn't it? I think it's May, end of April. So no, good to be back, mate. And obviously getting to Rangers back playing, seeing them live.
No, it is good to be back. Rangers starting off like the pre-season in front of the fans at least. Winning fashion as well. 2-1 victory over Saint-Étienne. We'll run through the game, Mark, in general, and we've got a couple of other bits of news to touch on as well. But yeah, overall, I think just general thoughts on the game. A worthwhile exercise, I thought. Obviously, I don't think we're anywhere near full fitness, which could be a concern, given that we're 8 days away from the first competitive fixture. And I don't think that starting 11 that I'm going to go through in a second is going to be a million miles away from where we're at come next week. I suspect we may have at least one addition in the building before then. But broadly, I don't think there's going to be a massive difference. But certainly, I think a worthwhile exercise in getting the boys some more minutes, introducing some of them to an Ibrox that probably wasn't as full as it's going to be come this Sunday. But, you know, a good introduction nonetheless for some of these boys who haven't been here before.
No, absolutely. And I think it's important we've got minutes. I think we've got to factor in. They're obviously just not long back from a training camp in Spain. They've been working quite hard. And like you say, get to see some new faces for the first time, given the number of the games that they've played so far. We haven't been able to see. So I think all in all, worthwhile exercise. Obviously, as you said, got another game come Sunday, and then league starts next Friday, so we're not far away. Obviously, again, we're going into that detail in a little bit. But no, I think it's good to see a few of the new boys underway. I think to your point there in terms of that might be our starter not far from our starting 11 next Friday. Does give me a little bit of concern, but I'm sure it's given us, 8-9 days away. I think there'll still be a little bit of activity, but I think there's still a bit of work to be done.
Yeah, I think we'll go through it in detail, obviously. But if we look at the starting 11, our new goalkeeper, Ivor Panda, in goal with McCrory at right back, Fernandez and Godfrey, who captained the side, interestingly enough, in centre-back positions with Tua Romans at left back. Chukwani and then Neil in the sort of central midfield positions with Diamande out on the right, although he decided to play wherever he liked for bits of the game, and Curtis out on the left with Shanklin and Chimiti up top. Now, obviously, as you said, Mark, it doesn't look like a mind-blowing starting 11 right now. There's obviously been some changes made to it. Seeing Curtis back in there is pleasant because I think he does represent a good threat for us. But it is not yet a starting 11 that really inspires you as it stands right now.
No, I think the fact that we're playing Diamande wide right as well is pretty telling of where we are lacking, to be fair. But no, I think it was good to see Shanklin in, also getting his goal. He says Finlay Curtis coming back. He's also had a good spell at Kilmarnock. I don't want to be too over-reliant on him, though. I think it's one, he's a young man. You know, he'll need to bed his cell in the team. You can see the impact that he's already had at Kilmarnock, and he definitely can also bring some freshness to our starting 11. And then obviously get to see Dan Neil, who I thought done all right, to be fair. And then also there's a couple of old faces that were in from last season. But overall, there's quite a number of new signings. So it was a bit of a makeshift to what we've seen before in terms of last season. But I do think, as I've mentioned already, I think we obviously, from an attacking sense, probably need to add a bit of strength in there, probably along with defence. But again, we'll go into that. But all in all, we're starting 11. You know, obviously Shanklin, that was the one I was looking forward to, given obviously he's one of the bigger signings for the summer. Like you said, Godfrey captain. I was quite surprised with that, given I thought it was BN and would have been Shanklin as one of the new starters.
Or Fernandez. I mean, I think if
Fernandez,
you point to a senior figure who's still at the club, then he'd probably be one that you point to as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
A couple of names in there, but yeah, Godfrey obviously got the nod for that. But like I said, it was just nice to see some faces in there, a bit of freshness from last season.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm just happy the football, like proper football's back. World Cup had some entertaining games, although I think it finishing with the match that it did maybe put me off the idea of football for a while. But yeah, it's good to have Rangers back, of course, even if it is just a friendly. Just quickly look at the bench as well. Kelly and Maguire as the sub goalkeepers. And then in no particular order, Asgard. Well, it's alphabetical order, isn't it? Asgard, Bayrami, Cameron, Devlin, Ant-Man, Nsiala, Nadiri, Sterling, Kasama, Miovski, Hutton, McCausland, and Nsio. There are a few names there who didn't even feature throughout. There are definitely a couple of names in there who I think are likely to move out over the remaining transfer window. Maybe one or two to go out on loan as well. But it was interesting to see Ant-Man, Kasama, players who maybe you'd think should be featuring at some point, particularly with who we had playing on the right wing. Didn't even get a sniff tonight, which was interesting.
I think it's pretty telling. The fact that we're putting Dio has been centre mid the whole time. He's been at the club, putting him out, and I think he's been playing there in the other friendlies as well. So I don't know what's going on with Ant-Man and Gassama, but clearly not doing enough to impress McInnes to get a starting place or even have any involvement whatsoever. So I think that's a bit of concern with they two. I think from a bench point of view, I think that's probably a little bit of concern in terms of options. We don't have a lot. I know Barron's to come back, Raskin, but obviously we've discussed before in terms of in this pod, in terms of Raskin's future. I think
on paper they might be due to come back, but we don't know for sure, right?
Exactly, and I think the options for Mios and Nadiri and Miovski from attacking along with Asgard, but over the piece, I think that depth, even though we do have significant numbers, I don't think it's enough to make us a threat. I think there is also just that collective piece in the squad, and also Devlin coming on and had a bit of an impact, which was good to see. But and I said even a couple of young boys there is who I think will probably go low as the transfer window goes on. But yeah, there's a few concerns in that.
No, for sure. But we kick off after Broxy goes round signing all the shirts fresh from his release, which was good to see. And I think Rangers start brightly enough. Almost immediately, we're on the front foot. Shankland gets a penalty, which he dispatches relatively comfortably. And hey, I mean, an early start for Rangers, a quick goal, and I think we're flying. But after that, Mark, it was not particularly inspirational for the rest of that first half, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think for me, we actually, the first minute or so, we were a bit careless, a bit all over the place. We actually had a chance in the first 90 seconds or so, and then as to your point there with Shanklin, good bit of work with Dio in terms of getting in front of the defender and getting that penalty. In all fairness to Shanklin, it's a great finish. Keeper's right, his left, bottom corner, which is good to see. Dream start for him, 5 minutes into his first start at Ibrox, which is good to see. I think to your point, I think the only thing I thought we were all right with, I didn't think we were that good on the ball as such, but I thought our pressing was pretty decent up to about 15, 20 minutes, and it sort of died off a little bit. I think that, again, I don't want to use this word concern because I don't actually want to be too negative tonight because we still won the game, and I mean, we've got to be mindful of sort of where we are with pre-season.
It's a friendly.
Yeah. And in all fairness, I know they're a League Two team, and they actually had a couple of decent players, so I was quite impressed with the right winger. I thought was pretty decent, a bit of a threat for us. But I think it was just how we were on the ball and sort of our, Chamiti has a decent chance. Good work with him to then Romans. He puts across and obviously hits the top of the bar, doesn't he? But we didn't really create overly enough. Kept the ball in spells, but all in all, I just thought we could just been a bit more careful when we're on the ball. I thought we were just a little bit slack, and defensively we just seemed to be a bit unorganised. A few gaps, kept getting down our left, their right, in particular in the first half.
Yeah, I think after that initial burst where we were on top, I do not think we offered anything in the second half and in the first half. Sorry, I do think it was all Saint-Étienne for the majority of that. They pushed forward a lot. couple of dangerous opportunities that they had. And then obviously 37 minutes, they get the goal. And I think almost everyone, every single group chat that I'm in, and my dad, and pretty much anyone connected to Rangers, including Kevin Thompson on Rangers TV commentary, said, it's been coming, because it had been for about 10 minutes or so. Just constantly giving up opportunities and not clearing your lines. The defence was not exactly covering itself with glory. And I thought, up until we conceded the goal, I thought Tua Romans was doing a really good power of work. You know, he was almost at points single-handedly manning that defence. But then, of course, he's the player who starts the mistake that then gives away the goal ultimately. So I think some concerns for sure with the defence as it stands right now, certainly in that first half, where just didn't show enough imperative in terms of being able to clear their lines and keeping the goal secure, because I didn't think Ivo Panda did anything particularly wrong. He just doesn't really have a chance with the nature of the ball and the first goal we concede.
No, I thought Panda, to be fair, was excellent. He's saved in the first half as well. I thought he'd done excellent with that. He's managed to get his right hand to it. It's also just went past the post, and I think it's got cut back, if I remember rightly, and clear it. I just think more it was the gaps that I was worried about more than anything else. I just felt like, you know, we just weren't really organised throughout. You know, there was no real leadership and anyone getting a grip. You know, we seen Fernandez. I seen it in the second half. There's a few moments he was sort of at the midfield, and Godfrey in particular were a couple of moments. But in the first half, it wasn't really sort of coming together. And again, it's maybe that, you know, a couple of games together, they've not played that many times. I get that. It's obviously just building that partnership, isn't it? But, you know, you've got to remember, Fernandez has obviously been at the club. This is his second season. Big player for us. Godfrey's got experience. You know, he's played in the Premier League. You know, between the two, you'd expect either one of them to get a bit of a grip of that. But I just thought we're a bit all over the place. But back to Pandora, I actually really, really like him. I know there's questions before when he came in terms of his distribution. I thought it was excellent. I thought his kicking was really, really good. Plenty of length on it, you know, going to boys that need to. Pretty calm as well. I thought it was quite good.
I mean, he has a moment in the first half where he's controlling the ball at his feet and does really well to get it away. I mean, scared the shit out of me, but it was quite good ultimately in terms of controlling and moving the ball well. So definitely looks much more comfortable with the ball at his feet than we've had for a while, I think.
Yeah. And he was like dribbling across his own goal line. Give me like that. Is it the Monk and Mean Machine vibes? So just dribbling out. No, I think, I'm pretty happy with him. He seems a bit of a safe pair of hands, coming for crosses, you know, coming out his goal. You know, overall, and he had moments in the second half as well, which I was pretty impressed with overall. And to your point with the goal, there's nothing he can do. It's fired across his goal. McCrory's trying to get him, obviously, beside the boy, it's obviously scored, but just couldn't quite get there. But again, it's back to balls in behind.
Honestly, with that, I'm more disappointed with Fernandez and Godfrey for not doing more, because the left back's the one who's trying to deal with the player who's going to cross it in. The right back's trying to deal with the player who will ultimately score the goal. Both the centre backs are in between those two. Neither of them influence the ball at all there. That was more disappointing for me to not see them do anything with it. So yeah, it was a disappointing goal, I think, to give away. But as I said, it had been coming.
No, that's fair. I think the only thing is you've just got to watch when you're obviously facing towards goal. If you put your leg out, then you turn that at risk. But again, it's that positioning piece that we went on about, not only just at that moment, but other moments as well. But I think it's one that we just need to get these things flushed out, obviously, in the next 9 days. I think that's probably, we went through it on the Sunday show in terms of a position that we need to strengthen. Suter obviously looks like he's going out the door. Enciala, doesn't offer much. So it's an area that we are quite light on, and one I think we do need to have a bit of reinforcement in, which I think we'll do, but it's more the timing given how far we are away. And then not only that, we're going into European action the following week. So, these games now already, bear in mind West Ham's on Sunday and then we play on Friday, they come thick and fast. So, we need to try and get some bit of movement in that space. But yeah, obviously the first half itself, Pandu was a big plus for me. I thought Diamandi done all right, given his position. But, there's still things to be worked on. But as I say, there could be a bit of an impact of obviously how hard they've been training in pre-season, but I'm not going to give them, let them off too lightly. Given
definitely not. No, it's Rangers. Expect blow them away 5-0, at least. Halftime comes and we get just one change at halftime with Cammy Devlin, another new signing coming on for Finlay Curtis, who's as good as a new signing because he's back from his loan. He does make an immediate impact. I thought was really effective at breaking up play. I think with the second or third tackle he made, it immediately got a talking to from the ref. So I'm pretty sure I put in the group chat at that point, he's going to pick up about 20 yellow cards for us. And I mean that in a good way, because he is going to be a really effective player for us in terms of breaking up those movements against us, where in the past, and certainly over the past few seasons, I think we've been far too easy to play against, in that we've allowed stuff to go through our midfield or just kind of pass us by, which we then take damage from. He looked really effective at just sort of breaking up that play and recycling the ball back to us. There's definitely a question around the quality of player around him, because I don't think he can do it all himself. But for me, a player who I think has kind of gone under the radar, who not a lot of folk were impressed with, was, I think, the stand-up performer in that second half, because he did lots of work off the ball and plenty of work to regain the ball for us as well, which I was genuinely impressed with.
No, I agree. Absolutely spot on. I think his immediate impact, I think it's that dirty side of the game, which I think we have been lacking in abundance for quite a while now. And I think it's one where it probably disrupted our play a little bit at the start of the second half, giving fouls or even, as you say, breaking up the play. I've said it on here before. I like him. I think he also had a major impact on Hearts' success last season. And I think when him and Shanklin were out for Hearts for spell of games, you could see that impact that it obviously had on them. And I think he will be one where it's at, we're obviously, bear in mind we've got about 300 midfielders. We'll have obviously options there. We've obviously in the market for this Serbian boy, who I think will definitely be an asset. There's talk of the Dal, the Norwegian as well. I heard he might be going to Cardiff, but there's all these options that we potentially could have. But I think for the league in particular, I think he will definitely be an asset for us. Your Kilmarnock's away, some of these dirty games that we just need to grind out a 1-0 and just get up the road, and that'll do us nicely. He's an absolute perfect player for that. And he can play. He had a little bit of trickery in the second half. There was moments there. But I think he definitely, broke their rhythm a bit. I know half-time came and stuff, but when they started and then he started getting in, making some tackles and it's even little fouls and stuff, I think it's one that, it lost Saint-Étienne's rhythm a bit in the start of the second half.
No, I think Dragojevic is definitely going to happen. It's all done by the visa, according to Stevie. So don't blame me if it doesn't happen. Stevie's fault, obviously. Dahl, I think, is an interesting one. I know that Cardiff are definitely looking at him and are keen on him. I don't think he's keen on Cardiff. And having been to Cardiff, I don't blame him. But that's still a very much wait and see on that one. But Dragojevic, I think, is definitely one who will be a Rangers player. Hopefully before the Dundee United game, maybe even before the West Ham game, which we'll see. I think in the second half we start to see, using more of the squads. 60 minutes comes and Nadiri and Asgard come on for Chimiti and Chikwane. Asgard, I think, is an interesting one because I think prior to tonight and indeed prior to pre-season, I don't think any of us were going, he's got to be a big player unless your name's Doogie. But he is one of those players, or in fact, Amrit's a big fan of him as well, isn't he? Despite, how Amrit felt about him earlier on in the season last year. So it's an interesting one. Certainly not one of the more popular players, I think, with a wider fan base, but he's going to go on and make a difference in this game, at least, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's one. It depends on if an offer comes in that's being quoted. I think if there's anything around about these numbers, I think we have to take it, and we can, utilise that money for other talent. It's an interesting one because is it one where he's just found a season to sort of bed in and also settle into the league? I don't know, because we've had moments where he's been not so good for a number of games, and then he comes and he has a world day, scores a great goal, he gets involved, and then he does the same again. And I think that's probably why a number of the fans are pretty frustrated with him from last season. But it's one of these, got a fresh start. He's playing under a new manager, under McInnes's system. That might benefit him. We shall see. I think the only thing is we've been here before where we think there is something there, and then we go on a run and not much is happening, where we're getting to a point where Amrit's comparing to Alsace and shit. So, that's sort of the levels we've been at. So, but it's one that I think, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think if there's an offer there, I think we have to take it. And if there's not, then, because he's definitely got parts of his game, and there's definitely moments where there's bits of brilliance within him. There is talent there. I've got absolutely no doubt about it. It's how he influences the game and where he influences the game. I think it's a frustrating thing on my part, where I think too often not he's far too deep. We should be up the final third within that 30, 40 yards and having that impact. And when he does it, you can see he can. It's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a moment prior to the goal where he made a really good run from, sort of attacking midfield through about 2 or 3 defenders. Looked really good, but again, as you say, he's playing in that correct position as we see him as an attacking midfielder. When he drops deeper, he's less effective. Now, I will say, very good fact on Rangers TV, he's the first Rangers player to score at a World Cup since Brian Laudrup. I'm not saying he is Brian Laudrup. I'm just saying he's got the same kind of... Anyway.
Can I know what you're having, by the way? Can I...
Look at Moretti. It's very good. I'm just repeating what I was told on Rangers TV, all right? 72 minutes then, Shanklin and McCrory come off for Miovski and Paul Ncio, which is a very interesting one. Because as far as I can tell, Paul Ncio has never played at right back, at least not for the first team for us. So whether it's a question of, he's trying out a new position, or whether it's just, hey, this is just a situation in the game which you might have to adapt to. It's a friendly, try it out and see how we work with it. I think an interesting test for him. He's certainly developed a lot physically since the last time I see him, because I think he's put on about 2 foot of height since the last time I remember seeing him play for us. Miovski for Shanklin, a like-for-like swap. I think it's just looking at that squad and going, it's not as strong as I would like it to be.
No, I think it's fair. And Ncio, obviously, was at Rafe last season, had quite a bit of an impact there. I know it was a championship, but even with that, given his age, he was pretty effective. He was normally playing a number 6 or number 8 for Rafe, and he done very, very well. To then, he said, be a makeshift right back was an interesting one. I don't see it as a long-term thing, but again, questions asked of that depth, given Sterling was on the bench, wasn't he?
Yeah. Just didn't feature.
Interesting.
I mean, it could well be we're just saving him for the West Ham game instead.
Possibly. No, I think that's fair. But just as you said, put Ncio at right back, given he's a centre mid. And then Miovski, again, I think probably similar to Asgard, had moments last season. But throughout there's probably some context to that as well in terms of us creating chances, etc. But I think if you go back to the Miovski we know from his Aberdeen days, we've seen it plenty of times at Ibrox and at Pittodrie against us, where he would create his own sort of luck and his own chances, where we've not really seen that. I guess it's a little bit different given 2 banks of 4, low block and all that stuff. It's not like for like. I get all that, but I'm hopefully a good pre-season with him. He obviously had that effect with the penalty in the second half, which was good to see.
Yep.
And one that, he's obviously had a bit of an impact in the game. But again, he's another one where I'm hoping he can kick on. But I think it's like anything, they've also got a bit of work to do given where we finished last season.
No, 100%. 83rd minute, second penalty for Rangers. It was a good run through from Miovski as well. I do think it's Devlin who starts that move as well. Again, breaking up play in the midfield. Takes out Miovski. A clear penalty. Like, there may have been a slight dubiety about the first one. There's no dubiety about the second one. That's definitely a penalty. And I honestly had this question, well, man, like, I don't know who's going to take this. Like, Smiovsky, does he take it? I genuinely didn't know. Asgard was probably the last one on my bingo list to be the one taking it, but he's proved that he can hit a free kick pretty well in the past. I don't think he was ever in danger of getting on the penalties last season, but he put this one away very nicely. Well taken penalty. Again, it's a friendly, Saint-Étienne, etc., but still, well struck penalty, and it's entirely possible that Amrit and Doogie have called one here.
Possibly. It's a great pen. The short run up though, that's my yeah, I hate that. But you know what? It's great technique. Keeper absolutely has no chance. The ball through for Dan Neil. I think it's Devlin to Fernandez, and I'm sure it goes in, breaks up that way if I remember rightly. It's a great ball through for Dan Neil. And as I said, Miovsky does well to obviously go around the keeper and is obviously brought down. But the penalty itself, great technique. It's a good goal. And that's probably one, who was going to take the penalties this season, given it was always Tav, wasn't it? So we've known nothing else for quite some time. So I think given the two penalties we've seen tonight, both good quality, so it's good that we've got options there, either one or not on the pitch. Now they both will get penalties.
Yeah. 84 minutes, the last change of the match as Lyle Cameron comes on for Dan Neil. Again, I think it's just minutes in the legs. I don't know how much Lyle Cameron's going to feature. Thoughts on Dan Neil overall? I mean, first game at Ibrox, obviously, first time playing in front of the fans. I thought he did okay without impressing a great deal. But I think he grew into the game because obviously contributed for that second goal that we got. So, mixed bag.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's one that, so I'm down in the Northeast, and, all some of the supporters I've spoken to, speak nothing but highly about him. Rate him, think he's good in the ball. I think we've seen moments of that tonight in terms of his wrist passing, try and play through the gaps. And even though he's not the tallest, he's quite, he's not afraid to get stuck in, which I quite like as well. Not
he looks quite tall, Gary Devlin. But I mean,
yeah, I know what you mean. But I think he has got a bit of that side to the game as well. But he is technically quite a good footballer. Tonight, overall, he done okay. I think it was, a 5-6. He was fine. Not overly worried in there with him. But it's one that again, the options we've also got in that position in particular. There's plenty of competition, so everyone's got to be on the game, or we've got options to mix up if need be. So it was good to see him here. I'm happy with it. As I said, everyone I've spoken to, I've spoken very highly of him. I think got a perspective as well. He went to Ipswich. He didn't really get a run in the team, so he's not really played football now for quite a while. But again, obviously getting a decent pre-season under his belt, and hopefully he can come firing with us. I think he'll be all right. I don't think it'll be one that other English midfielders we've had in the past have came up and failed as badly. I think he'll be all right. And I think he's not one to just take it lightly and think this will be a walk in the park. I think he's one that does work quite hard and has got the attitude to do well for us. And hopefully he does.
That's what we've been all about. And so we've talked about pre-season has been shifting that mentality from going to it sucks to lose to I hate losing. It's not just enough to love to win, it's to hate to lose. And we haven't had enough of that mentality throughout the squad. So, you're hopeful that Dan Neil, along with the others coming in, are going to bring that attitude for us. Thoughts overall then, Mark? As I said, I think it's a useful exercise. It was a good run out. We got some minutes in the legs for more players. We're seeing some of how this team is going to play. I do not think that this starting 11 is going to be what our starting 11 looks like post the 3rd of September, because I think we have still plenty of business to do before this transfer window slams shut. That's the case as the verbiage has to be. But certainly, I think an interesting exercise in looking at where this squad is at right now with the Dundee United game coming up in 8-9 days.
Yeah, I think overall thoughts. Good we got a win. I think winning is a good habit to be in. Breeds confidence throughout. We also want to maintain that going into Sunday. And then when it comes to Friday, we're ready to go. I thought Pandora was excellent. Real happy with the goalkeeper. I think he'll be a big plus for us this season, and given the 90 minutes he's just had, and you've got to remember he's not long in the building as well, given he's been away with Croatia, so in the World Cup. So that was a big plus. Cammy Devlin, real impressed with him. We've obviously known him, given he's been at Hearts, but again, I thought just his tenacity, I thought the way he went about his business, I quite like, and I like his dark side of the game as well. And we scored 2 goals and we won. So they're the pluses. I think the concerns or the things that are worrying me is the lack of creativity. We also scored 2 goals from penalties, but we've won the game. And sometimes games are going to be like that, and it's a matter of how you score, and you win the games, do whatever you need to do. And like I said, they're not a bad side, and they're quite young, fresh, athletic. So they were quite a busy team. And probably defensively, slight concerns with that in terms of where we are organisationally. But I think one that hopefully, given we've got a bit of time within the transfer window, I think so there will be a bit of activity. The only thing I will say is we play 9 days in the league. We play in Europe 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah. So, these games are coming. So I'd like at least some bit of business for us to give us a little bit of a chance. Because I think there does need to be changes in that. And I think, as we referenced before, in terms of that bench, options aren't the greatest. There's a couple, but one I'd probably like a bit more depth with some quality.
Yeah. I think...
I'm not being greedy here, by the way. I'm just, I'm trying to...
No, of course not.
This,
We only have the 15 players on the bench. I want at least 20, and all of them to be better as well, obviously.
Exactly.
No, we're not greedy. We're not unreasonable Rangers players, or Rangers fans. It's just all about perspective, right? Folks, obviously, always a pleasure to be joined by you. I have one quick bit of news before we leave you. The SFA concluded that Derek McInnes has earned himself a 4-match ban, with one of those matches suspended, thanks to his comments following the penultimate game of the season last season. Now, Rangers have already responded to that with a statement, which I'm going to read a chunk of right now, if I can find it. Oh, God. Oh, no. There we go. As far as Rangers are concerned, we do not believe that Derek's view on a match-defining decision amounted to an attack on the competence or integrity of match officials. His comments were directed at the decision rather than representing any broader criticism of officials. Considered fairly and in context, Derek's comments do not allege bias, incompetence, or dishonesty. His concerns were widely shared by other commentators across the UK. The Scottish FA's independent key match incident panel subsequently concluded that the referee's original decision was correct and that VAR should not have intervened. And the final couple of lines, which I think are extremely important here: managers, players and clubs must be able to speak honestly about major decisions if Scottish football is serious about raising standards and maintaining trust. Scrutiny, transparency and accountability should be seen as part of improving standards, not as a threat to them. So I think it's fair to say Rangers will be appealing this decision. It's difficult to know what to say beyond what Rangers have said, because I think it's a very good statement. I think Rangers have been good about these. It will be interesting to see what the response is from the SFA, if we are successful in an appeal or if anything can be done with it. But the 4-game, 3-game, realistically, unless Derek really goes on a tear next year, it strikes me as overly punitive and harsh, particularly in the context as Rangers have laid out there. For me, speaking only as myself, not on behalf of any podcasts or anything else that I might be affiliated with, I think Derek McInnes was fairly measured in his comments after the game and wouldn't have been surprised or shocked if he had gone further with them, because it was a joke of a decision. But it's something that Rangers have to deal with as a consequence of something that happened before Derek McInnes was even Rangers manager. I do think that Rangers will fight the corner here, because there's absolutely a case to be made that this is an unfair punishment, especially in the context of the actions of the officials in that match.
No, absolutely. I think a couple of things for me. I think the statement's absolutely spot on and on point. I think that's one thing we definitely got better with under Andrew Kavanagh in terms of our comms and our response to certain moments, in particular what had happened last season. And from Darren McInnes's point of view, I think it's one, again, I think you're absolutely right there where you said it could have went further given he just came on the back of a result. He's also going for League at Hearts at that point in time. He's obviously seen the incident that's happened. You know what I mean? He could have blew a gasket and said things a lot worse, but he didn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And in that heat of the moment, I thought he was pretty well measured given the circumstance. In all fairness, and another point there where, you think of the global audience and appeal that had to many, and people questioning. You had a number of big people in football saying similar things. Not exactly it was to Derek, but they were questioning. And I think one that, we live in a society where we should be able to call out if someone is wrong. And it's not so much directly the integrity of the person, but the integrity of the decision. Or, if someone is wrong, you should be able to call out that they are wrong. Again, there's a way to say it, but I think sometimes, again, it's that context of the moment. And I think you do need to have that factored in when you're making these decisions. SFA have not done that. It's been pretty clear. In fact, it's a 3-game ban. Steve alluded to it last night in the podcast. There's been historic moments where people have done something similar unpunished. And that's where, again, I go on about this all the time, and the frustrating part for me with referees' decisions, etc., things that go on with SFA, is that inconsistency. So you either do it one way or you do it the other. You know what I mean? It's either black or white. None of this grey. And this is the thing. I think this is why a lot of Rangers fans in particular are frustrated. I've seen a number of things on X today where, and rightly so in terms of calling it out, and you have to be in that environment. Football's a place where, people are going to make mistakes. It happens. But I think from the opposing side that's on the receiving end of that should be able to call that out or ask the questions why. And I think, the fact that they're being challenged on that, for me, just sums up that, not dictatorship, but it's my rules and that's the end of it.
I think there's two sides to that, right? It's their ball, ultimately, Mark. There's not a great deal we can do with it. But we've had, I think, 2 bits of news that have happened in the past couple of days. First of all, the report on the quarterfinal, as well as this. There's no culpability being directed towards the SFA, who are the governing body here. They were responsible for the allocation for the quarterfinal. They ultimately were responsible for the poor decision making, which their own panel said was an incorrect decision, ultimately. So there are 2 instances there where the SFA just hold up their hands, or the SPFL hold up their hands and go, it's not us. It was you guys, obviously, even though we made the bad decision. So certainly I don't think that this is over. Far from it. There's definitely more to run on this. And as Rangers say, you should be able to criticise decisions. You should be able to criticise officials without, calling the whole thing into disrepute. We aren't doing that. We're just saying that certain individuals and certain decisions do not appear to be consistent with what have come before, and certainly don't appear to be applied consistently depending on the team in question as well. But that will be a discussion that will continue on, and we will talk about more and more, I am sure, unfortunately. But for now, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, nearly 2,000 of you on a lovely Wednesday night. Thank you all so much for joining us. Mark, I want to thank you as well. Appreciate you coming on and joining me this evening to talk about, finally, Rangers are back.
No, pleasure, mate. I'm glad to be back. And talking about numbers at 20 to 11 on a Wednesday night's incredible. So thank you all for your support as always. And it was nice to see Broxy Bear back tonight, given his trauma that he's gone through over the last 24, 40 hours. So I'm glad
Slings and arrows being thrown Broxy's way. But we're always gonna have his back. And I will say as well, if you're the type of person who gets agitated by a guy in a teddy bear costume, football might not be for you. In fact, any kind of crowd group activities might not be for you. Maybe just stay inside forever and don't go outside anymore. Might be bad for you. Listen, folks, it has been a pleasure as ever. Let me go through all of our brand new sponsors. Let me get the rhythm down for this, because it's only been a couple of times so far I've had to do this. So my thanks to CBD Oil Scotland, Candid, LBJ Consultants, Elite Scooters, Metaclad, our fucking roofing partners, and Aesthetics by Sharon, along with our partners Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and the RYDC.co.uk. There you go. Easy. Piece of cake. Thank you all so very much for joining us. We appreciate you. We will have a post-match reaction video going up from Stevie as well. His report from the presser, I believe, along with Calvin tonight. And I think we'll also be doing something interesting with the vlogs this year as well. So as folk know, we weren't able to do vlogs kind of as live from the press gantry. What we can do, theoretically, is just release that slightly later. So hopefully by midday the following day after matches, we'd be able to release the live reactions from the press gantry. If you're interested in that, if you would like to see that, let us know in the comments. And we're in discussion with the Rangers to see what can be done. We'll see if it can be made possible, and we'll let you guys know. But thank Mark once again. I want to thank the listeners and viewers once again. And yeah, we'll be back soon. I'll be back on Friday along with a few of the other lads. So thank you all so very much. And until we talk to you again, folks, bye for now.
The Four Lads Rangers podcast is sponsored by Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland, Elite Scooter Scotland, and Metaclad, Four Lads' exclusive roofing partner. The Aesthetic Lounge by Sharon, in partnership with Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Four Lads podcast is delighted to be sponsored by CBD Oil Scotland. Get a massive 30% off now for all their gummies and their oils. Go and check them out. These help with things like stress, anxiety, sleep patterns, mood, depression, even stuff like fibromyalgia. Go and check them out, cbdoilscotland.com. Use the code 4lads to get a massive 30% off. You enter right now and you'll be in the hospitality draw for tickets for Rangers versus West Ham, Derek McInnes's first game in charge, and you will get that opportunity not only to get 30% off, but you'll also be in the draw for hospitality tickets for West Ham. If you don't want to use the website, you can come into either shop here in Thornley Bank or in Kinnan Park. It's called Bits and Bongs. You go in there, use the code 4lads, and you'll get a massive 30% off. We're delighted CBD Oil Scotland are sponsoring 4lads. Check it out and go and help yourself to some oils, some gummies with a fantastic 30% off.